Well, cool, guys. Let's run through it. I'm actually excited about this impromptu show. I have, well, let me do a proper introduction. So, welcome everybody. Yes, Adam's on paternity leave. He will be out this week, next week, week after. Then he will be back to your scheduled programming. But you guys might be rallying for me, honestly, at the end of these 3 weeks. So this could all look different. We'll see what happens. But we were supposed to have Ryan Cooley from Pitch Lane on today. Pitch Lane is a platform that allows you to send video outreach at scale using AI, basically custom videos, but at scale. It's really awesome. Ryan cannot make it today, unfortunately. We're going to have him back in 2 weeks. And in lieu of that show, John Eley, our video producer, Adam's video producer, is going to join us today and talk through what really RB2B is doing from a content and video standpoint today, how John wrangles all of that madness, and really what we're looking, someone just posted a nice joke in there, and really what we're looking to do with video content in the future. So we have big plans going into 2025. If you were to ask Adam when when content started working for him, he would say that was 13 months ago, basically beginning of September 23. So keep in mind, we are new to a lot of this. We have noticed folks copying us, and like now we're trying to figure out where to go next. So it's a very interesting thing. Adam really has two main folks at his side when it comes to creating content. On the text LinkedIn side, that's Alec Paula. You probably see him get referenced. But on the video side, that's all John Eley here. So I'll stop my introduction. John, you want to do a little briefly introduce how you started working with Adam, all that stuff?
Yeah, so I'm John. I am Adam's video producer for RB2B, as well as the retention side of things. I first came on through our producer, Christy. So Christy Ellington is a producer who started doing the $1 Billion Challenge, which is a serial, basically bio of what Adam is trying to do while building in public. I initially got brought on as the video cinematographer for that program, and then it slowly evolved to me coming on, helping out with the founder brand, creating the video series for $1 Billion Challenge, as well as basically any video content you see on there. While Pete was very kind to give me a lot of credit for all that, there's actually a whole team behind me, very much so. Christy Ellington is a huge one. Eddie Cantu is our editor. So while I do get to be the face today, there's quite a bit more than just me.
Fair. Christy's the best. I haven't worked with the editor yet, but yeah, it's quite the team. Maybe later in the show, we'll show some of the $1 Billion Challenge, just so people can see like the level of production that's there and really all that goes into it. Because I don't want people to mistake these highly produced videos for something that they can just sort of whip out, because it's a big team effort. And yeah, so fantastic. Well, John, why don't we start with sort of current state of the art for RB2B video and RB2B sort of content strategy. So could you go through and maybe we'll show some examples of really the main types of video we're doing? I would say that's just the kind of the talking head side, and then like the educational content, and then there's like the $1 Billion Challenge. Do you want to touch on those pieces?
I mean, there couldn't be a better day to talk about this, because we actually met today, me, Christy, who I just mentioned, and Alec, discussing the future of what video is going to look like under the founder brand, as well as RB2B. While Adam is away on paternity leave, we are bringing our knowledge together to kind of come back. So once he comes back from paternity leave, we can hit the ground running with a new slate of video. To answer your question of where we're at, we kind of want to go back to how Adam got into this. You've probably heard him mention many times, if you follow him on Instagram or on LinkedIn or YouTube, that he initially started getting into the video world by taking a 9-week course. And when he was on this course, he got to know the instructor through video. However, when he met this person live, he realized he knew everything about this person. The instructor knew nothing about Adam, and he kind of realized there's a power of video. You can outreach, you can connect with people outwardly, and that's really what got him excited about this. And so we're kind of utilizing that mentality now with everything that we do. We have three main types of videos that we do for Adam's founder brand. One being our long format, which is our $1 billion challenge, which is a docu-series that's highly produced. It takes a lot of effort from Christy producing the show, writing it, taking the story, finding a story, me shooting that story, me following and finding the beats, me supplementing anything that we couldn't get that was, you know, trying to work within the story. And then our editor, Eddie, who is out of this world amazing, takes everything that we shot, watches it all, puts into these great formats. And we'll put a YouTube link here if you all want to see that. And that's really Adam's build in public, like showing what he's doing, putting down the foundational groundwork of his proof that he's making it work for $1 billion challenge. Then we have a lot of supplemental content that we put on LinkedIn, which is really informational.
Sorry, I wanted to, so just as we're talking through the different pieces of content, guys, this is the YouTube page. We need to organize this, as John and I talked about yesterday. We'll go there later, but $1 billion challenge is the most highly produced content that we have. I'm just going to hover over some of these thumbnails so you guys can see that, like, this was actually like a, you know, I mean, I was going to say production team, like it is a production team, but like you have John behind there following him with the camera. And then like we have our editors and we got to figure out the story and all of these different things to produce this more kind of longer form, more, hopefully more engaging content, which is really, I believe, like one of the core pillars of the build in public. It's the behind the scenes, showing the actual day-to-day of what's going on here. So most highly produced content is this $1 billion challenge. I do want to ask John, like when it comes to returns, figuring out like where this fits and how much of like a positive effect or positive ROI, right? If we have marketing people or founders, they're thinking of like, what's the ROI of this $1 billion challenge? Can you speak to the known and the unknown of that?
Well, so first off, you can also go to the home. There is a playlist that will hold all these, so it'll be a little less disorganized.
Thank you.
There's the $1 billion challenge there, but the big part of the $1 billion challenge is that it is his proof of concept for work in public. And there's actually one of the most latest videos that we posted talks about him not following the metrics of these types of things, because trying to follow the metrics, you'll get lost in the sauce. Like a lot of companies try to systemize and formulate expectations based off of data that doesn't really apply. Like there's no way to quantify how much people enjoy one show or another. I know that sounds crazy. Adam has a much more in-depth approach to this.
Yeah, I can.
We'll definitely get his say on that. But
well, let me also, if I could add an anecdote on that from kind of the brain of Adam. So while we can't go to a dashboard within YouTube or within LinkedIn to see how many of these viewers convert and then what the ROI, like that would be the perfect world, right? That world does not exist. Attribution in general is hard, especially with something like this. So the question becomes, well, all right, great. You're clearly investing a lot into this more highly produced video. Like what gives you the justification to keep doing that? And honestly, to keep like investing more and more. I mean, it is our most invested in channel for sure, is this community building and content. So the validation is, and you know, basically Adam saying, hey, now when I go into an event, like people come up to me and tell me like how impactful some of the messages have been to their journey. And his takeaway from that is like, okay, maybe we can't measure absolutely everything when it comes back to ROI attribution, but like there is no marketing channel that is going to make someone so passionate and so trusting to you as a marketer, right? Because a lot of his content, I think I put out a post like 2 months ago, is Adam Robinson's content marketing. And most people said no, which is crazy because like it obviously is, right? It's just marketing a bigger storyline than the product itself. So the trust from our audience. I mean, when we get people on calls, even group calls or one-on-ones, like, you know, we give advice, like people really listen to us, which is a huge privilege and responsibility because we have to give really good, accurate advice now that people are trusting us. But yeah, that's sort of the leading indicators to why we should continue to reinvest in this. And most people too, when they tell us where they heard about us, they do say LinkedIn. So this is a part of that ecosystem, and it's the most heavily produced part. So anyway, I wanted to give that context. Shall we move into any more $1 billion challenge? You want to move into another video type here?
Yeah, we can jump into that. Somebody did ask why we haven't posted that on LinkedIn. We do post the $1 billion challenge on LinkedIn. It is LinkedIn's a tough repository for video, just so you know, which is something we can get into as well. But because if I post something 6 weeks ago, it's lost in the past. We do have a little repository that's on there. If you do go to Adam's LinkedIn, you'll find it. It's just a little bit harder to post long form serial content that way. So yes, and the challenge is just the name of the docu-series, because we did challenge for the first year for Adam to become to turn retention.com into $1 billion business in 1 year. We can post the link here in just a moment for y'all too. But so then the second form of content that we post is what we call talking head content. That is really dedicated to trying to get to the connection aspect of anybody who's joining in with us. Talking heads are what you typically see on LinkedIn. It might even be better to go to his LinkedIn if you're going to be doing that, Pete. The talking heads, what they do is they really help us connect with the LinkedIn audience, really give insight to just kind of what's going on with Adam without having to really break down a story structure. It's more of a, you have caught us in the middle of Adam's world, and this is what we're thinking about, what we're pondering about, what we're doing, how it's working, challenges he's facing, wins he's facing, whatever it might be that he's actually dealing with. Kind of spur off the top of the head, and they're not really produced too heavily, but what they do is they give you just kind of insights into like 7 startup mistakes he's made. We went to a CEO dinner together, and we just talk about what he's learned from it. It's really about like challenges and takeaways that he gets from this, and it really helps supplement the amazing content that Alec puts out. And Alec is the idea generator for Adam to help post these amazing posts. Our talking heads are just very successful because Adam's so engaging. They're really low lift for us to produce and create, but they really help people connect with him. I think that's the biggest thing with those.
Yes, absolutely. Since we're in the neighborhood of talking about Alec, I just want to give some insight to people. Alex, I had a call with him on Friday. We were going through my best performing posts, and every time we do this exercise, me and Alec, we always just look at the headlines of the best performing posts, and that literally dictates the engagement. So everybody who's in this call, as you see posts from anybody at RB2B, because we very much follow this. Check out
Sorry, I was trying to get the link to the $1 billion challenge, and then started playing. I apologize.
You're good. But yeah, check out these headlines. It's a super important part. And I would say while we're in the neighborhood, John, of the talking heads, this is a good time to bring up the 3 stories, kind of the pillars of content, because while on the surface these and look, these are unique videos each time, and they're unique stories, but they route back to the same sort of pillars. So a lot of times when people look at content that someone else is putting out, it can be overwhelming to be like, oh man, how does this person think of so many ideas and have constantly have so many new insights to talk about? But as you dive through and really start to digest everything, you realize that there are stories being repackaged and retold and recontextualized in different ways, but they all route back to the same kind of messaging pillars. Do you want to talk about how you guys approach that from like a talk, or like maybe just a narrative standpoint?
Well, yeah. So this is a very timely topic, because again, we kind of got into a room today to talk about the future of what the video content looks like, and the 3 biggest things that we're moving towards are connection, education, and inspiration. There's still some say Adam is going to want to put into this, and again, he's on paternity leave, but The way we view video is like, is it going to connect with somebody? Is it going to inspire somebody to do something, or is it going to educate somebody to do something? And really, those are the three biggest things we want to do with our video. Because if it's not doing any of that, then we're just throwing a video out in the world for somebody to, I don't know, kill their time, and we don't want to waste time. And like actionability without a CTA is kind of the goal, right? Like every YouTube video ends with a so like and subscribe, which we could do, but it's really important for us to either A, connect with our audience always, B, find some form of actionable educational content that we can put outward into the world, or C, inspire you to, pick up the tools that we've laid out for you and go with that. And Adam does a great job with that naturally. So it's not that hard of work for us. Like what we get to do is really just refine what Adam's already doing so amazingly.
Yeah, absolutely. And now when it comes to actually like creating, you're in the flow, and now you have a steady flow of sort of how to create content, right? For somebody just starting out, it's like a very overwhelming process to be like, all right, I need to understand like who I'm talking to, what my story is. I then need to like ideate for content, write it, edit it, produce it, distribute it, and then restart that process. It's pretty daunting if you've never done it before. Um, I'll add a preface before I ask you your question, but
Sure.
for folks just starting content, video is often, I think, for a lot of people, like a V2 of their content goals.
Mm-hmm.
Text, especially as you're trying to explore storylines,
Mm-hmm.
and sort of content pillars that resonate with an audience. And as you're trying to build an audience, it might not be worth it to overwhelm yourself with video just yet. So as John's talking through his creative process, remember, this can be applied to multiple mediums. This can be applied to a one pager or a text posts. But John, I want to ask you kind of just the basic process of creating a piece of content, a video for RB2B. So from ideation to production to distribution, can you give us like rough time frame and like who's brought into that process?
Sure. It really again depends on the time frame. Like for example, we're doing a video product right now that is took a lot of front loading to plan out how to create these webinars that we then record and put on YouTube. But there's no editing in it. Once we get what we get, it's going online. There's something like a piece of content that is a talking head, which is really us pulling a diamond out of the rough that is Adam talking. And so there isn't really a planned attack with that. Now, if we're doing something highly produced like the $1 billion challenge, what we're doing in that process is we are taking interviews that we have with Adam to draw out nuggets of a story. And Christy is phenomenal at this. She's a surgeon when it comes to taking Adam talking about his day, and all of a sudden she has this narrative story that came from it that is both authentic, real, and not produced, and we go follow that. And so, on a small thing like Adam talking to a camera, it could be just me and my computer, and I bang it out, throw a title on, and put it online. I just have to find the story within it. If it's something produced, there is a pre-production process that involves creating a story, finding a story, then we need to shoot the story, then we need to have an editor create a story timeline, and then from that story timeline, then we need to find supplemental footage to back up all the narrative that is what is talked about, and then we polish it, get it online, and hopefully you all love it. And that process, can take months depending on what it is. But with the episodic series of this $1 billion challenge, we're doing 10 episodes at once. So even though it's a month, we're making 5 in a month, and it just takes that long depending on what the story is. As far as like this webinar, we put online tomorrow at 9 a.m. And the only reason for that is to get ahead of any potential internet glitches or anything, because I could have this online 1 hour after this, but we do it 9 a.m. It puts a little anticipation between us and it going online. And then and then then there's other types of videos that we're doing, which will be like Pete, for example, is helping doing some educational content for for RB2B. And really those are creating a story we get it shot, and then editing is really the longest process. And finding a good editor will make all your video 1,000 times better. If you're trying to get into the video world, start with an editor, not a shooter. That is all I can tell you.
Now, is there what is your solution to some? I want to come back to the ideation thing in a second, but for somebody who is just starting content, they're like, all right, I can't do the highly produced stuff. Maybe I could do some talking heads. Is there like a piece of software you recommend, or like a quick way to do kind of a talking heads as a one-man shop?
Okay, your phone has better technology than what Jurassic Park was shot on. Like, with this thing, you can do more with your cell phone than any camera. I have thousands of dollars worth of camera gear. Your cell phone is just as capable as anything else we do, and it is easy to use. Everybody knows how to use it. Thank you for saying that's smart about the shooter. My old CEO used to have this phrase that was, the best camera is the one that you have with you. And with your iPhone and a small little tripod, you can do 99% of the stuff that we're doing. Like, we shoot a lot of $1 billion challenge on the iPhone, because half the events we're allowed in don't allow cameras. So I'm just walking around like this. Sometimes I throw a gimbal on to make it look more professional, but between your cell phone and your laptop camera, you can shoot anything. If you watch any of these 10 million subscribed YouTube channels, they all start with somebody talking to their laptop. So it's not a matter of, I always say it's not the jockey, it's not the horse, it's the jockey. You don't need the world's greatest equipment. What you need is a good story and for it to sound good. And I'm a video guy, and it hurts to say that, but like, story comes first, then audio, then video.
Yes, and getting onto stories. So a way that I do this, and John and I had to put together some impromptu notes, and I did the same thing when I was doing the impromptu notes. But I will ideate on my own. I don't meet with John. I will meet with John to produce some educational content, but I've already done the ideating and the story on my end. So and that's probably the position a lot of the folks here will be in. So just so people know how, like, when I'm in the mode of writer's block, or trying to figure out what content to write and how to formulate ideas. So John was just saying Adam will kind of, more or less monologue ideas and stories to Christy, who's our one of our producers, along with John. And Christy will then craft the story, but most of us don't have that luxury. So here's how I do it. I'll basically go to an AI. Let me see if I can actually pull it up without it being, I don't know if I'll be able to actually, hold on.
While you do that, do you want me to give a little topics on story creation?
Yeah, please.
Okay, so story creation is one of the most people make so much more complicated than they need to. A story consists of 3 parts: a beginning, a middle, and an end. And if you're writing hooks on LinkedIn already, if you're writing something that gets somebody hooked, you give them a piece of information and you wrap it up, you have a story, right? Initiate, educate, finish. And that is what a story is. And whether your story, you kind of have to ask yourself, what is the purpose of your story? Are you trying to sell something? Are you trying to gather more attention? Are you trying to get more views? Whatever you're trying to do with your story, you create an intro hook, you educate people on why what you just said is important, and you finish it off with how they can follow up, how they can find you, how they can learn more from you, whatever it is you need. There's literally 3 beats to a story, and the story beats being the first sentence, the middle sentence, and the end. And if you have that, you have a story. I know that's super ethereal and doesn't really get down to the nuts and bolts of it, but if you can take whatever you've written as what you're trying to put out in the story, and there's do this, and then this, and then this, and then this, and there's 7 parts to it, you're kind of screwed. Like, the best thing is point A, therefore point B, but point C, and your story just needs to flow and connect through 3 points, beginning, middle, end.
And I just want to share, because I think when people hear story, and I'm saying people because this is what, prior to my career, this is when I hear story, I think of like a book or a movie or like a long form piece of content that is telling. I just for some reason instinctively think in depth. But
Sure.
like think about the books you used to read when you were like really, really young, starting to read. Those books told complete stories, and they were like, I mean, a couple sheets of paper, probably didn't have many words. This post performed really well for me last week. This was a summary of Santosh's show that he hosted last week. This same show just last week, and this is kind of a complete story, and it's not really all that long. And this is really where like I would start. And the way I was ideating, I went to Google Gemini, which is an AI that I use. I have this RB2B thing. Sometimes I ask it about how to install sky lamps and stuff like that. But this knows so much about RB2B to the point where like I can literally start ideating with it. Like, hey, this is what I want to write about. This is the story. It will use all the context it already has. And kind of the way that Adam is doing this ideation and then having Christy like, actually organize it. AI bots, and you don't even need the advanced one to do this level of functionality, will do all of that for you for free. So, and I usually like to talk to it. I get my microphone out. I don't want to type to it. I talk to it, I read, and I will just continue to make it edit. And I don't have to worry about being the most articulate because no one's actually listening. I just need it to understand what I want its output to be. So, I know everyone screams like use AI, but like that is really that exact thing that Adam is paying somebody to do. I am doing on the same team with AI, probably not as good. Christy's a total wizard, and especially she's doing it in the video format. So I don't mean, but if you're looking to do text and just get started, guys, use the free tools at our fingertips here. It's pretty magical. I will come in some mornings needing to write content. I'm so unarticulate. I sound like an idiot, honestly. I'm still sleeping, and it will still help me organize thoughts. It's incredible.
Yeah.
Cool. Let's move on to we have our last main form of content here. And then I want to talk about the future of video at RB2B. Then we'll open it up for questions.
Yeah.
But my question is really about these live videos that we're doing. We kind of have this, so we've talked about our talking heads. That's really our LinkedIn bread and butter in terms of video. There's the highly produced $1 billion challenge. And now we're really experimenting, I would say, with two. Like we know those other ones work. We're experimenting with live video as we're in one of these events right now. And we're also experimenting with like longer form educational content and courses. So let's chat about our live events. I'm sure a lot of people have been here. Like, well, I don't know. If you guys want to drop into the chat, like, do you do you attend somewhat regularly? Have you been attending for a little while? I just want to see where people like how much of the journey they've seen. Because the first few of these weren't all that polished. We had a lot of mute problems, a lot of technical difficulties. And
it's like we already had that question set up.
Okay. There we go. If everyone could please answer that poll. I'm curious who's a new or a returning viewer here. But we'll drop the results in there. But yeah, we're still trying to figure out how to make this even better. We had tried, so right now this exists in a Zoom webinar. It used to be a LinkedIn Live. Even still, like after we host these, maybe a couple people watch the recording the next few days, but essentially it kind of goes into the ether. And some of these, I mean, the Jason Bay, just to call one out, was like an incredibly impactful podcast from my understanding, or not podcast, but webinar from my understanding of sales. And I do, used to do sales. So we're trying to figure out what is next here with live video. I think there's a whole, there's really no like work related or like business related live podcasts out there where people are actually interacting with the hosts that are notable. So there's a lot of potential there. But John, why don't you, I know you have like grand plans and ideas that you shared with me for in a perfect world, how we're doing this. You want to share hopefully the
Yes.
video of future
Okay,
video.
so I'm going to share the parts that I know I can share. There's things that we have ideas for, and I don't want them to get put out into the world as something that's going to happen that doesn't. It does look like we're about 83% returning viewers. So if you're a returning viewer and you've been here since the beginning, you've seen that this is iterated from literally just a Zoom talk between two people that kind of got broadcast live to what it is now, which is us on this Zoom webinar that then goes live on YouTube. I actually texted Adam earlier this morning about there's a new integration with Zoom that we are going to definitely probably we're going to be moving to with these where it's a lot more engaging. People can chime in more. People can ask questions in a way that isn't like you have to wait for us to answer. So there's a little bit of user end experience that's going to get improved. But the other part of this is I came from a company called Creative Live originally. It was one of the very first online educational platforms that was broadcast live as well as rebroadcasted. And we want to take some of that knowledge that we earned while working there and bring it here because Adam's goal is to do a little more educational content in the form of courses. These webinars are the precursor to that kind of educational content. Entrepreneurial education, business education, marketing education that is evergreen, but also is super valuable in the current state of the world, which is actually really hard to do because education is in itself a story. Like you're taking the life that you've experienced and learned and focusing it down into nuggets of information that are both actionable and inspirational for people. The way we plan on doing that is utilizing our own website, hopefully near in the future to be utilizing the RB2B Academy, which is Pete's baby that we've been working together. Hopefully putting this content out on that in a live format that also gets to live there in a way that is accessible and always evergreen for people. And the way that we do that is we make sure that the content that we speak of is not based on the technology of the things that we're doing, but rather like tried and true strategies that Adam has created, listened to, followed through on himself, utilizing the strategies he's used to make two companies that are multi-million AR companies. That's going to be the biggest step one. And then number two is creating what's called a binge bin, which is where anybody who didn't get to join in on these gets to come back and participate in the wealth of knowledge that is just living basically forever with us in the RB2B world. Like you don't need to go to YouTube. You don't need to go to LinkedIn, or LinkedIn would funnel this way. But in the end, like we have so much content spread out so thin that it's hard to find sometimes. And so we're really trying to find a way to keep it all composed and held in one place. And that's kind of what me and Pete have been working on in the back end. There's a lot of work to do on that front. But that's the direction we're trying to go in.
Yeah, kind of current problems. Like when we talk about future of video, I mean, when I say video too, it's really like content and community that this is like helping boost. So some of these problems really layer into some deeper content and community problems. But let me from my perspective,
Please.
our community mostly lives in LinkedIn comments, and specifically like the comments are really the roaring part. Obviously there's user generated content, which is beefed up a lot in the last quarter. There's, the content that we put out, but like the most of the chatter interaction and the interesting stuff happens really in the comments, specifically on Adam's posts. I mean, I get some good chatter sometimes, but it just pales in comparison. So that's a really bizarre place to have a community live, to have 100,000 followers live in this it's not like a repository. It's just this continuum. And like, after you get 6 days down the continuum, everything else from previous history, unless it's a special exception, is more or less dead, which is very bizarre. So there's that whole function, as John was saying too, just trying to have a place where our community lives in like a proprietary way. So another community issue is like we have a ton of followers. Adam has 100,000 followers on LinkedIn. We do not have all those people's email addresses. We can't reach out to them directly. We don't also have like other places to send them to if they're interested in the universe of ideas that Adam's talking about. We don't have a central hub for them to then go and explore more, certainly not in an easy way. That's what we're trying to figure out, some hub where like people can communicate, we can store content, they can have actionable, like sort of self-guided coursework so that they can beef up their knowledge on a certain subject. And I know this sort of extends outside of video, but it really like a huge part of video is the distribution and like where it's living, right? So those are really the problems we're working through. We'll continue to be very open about that, and we appreciate everyone too just being along for the ride. Like as we launch new formats and everything, like people are here, and it's a pretty amazing thing. So things will only get better. And I'll launch my own show in January. We already talked about it. Well, yeah, we got a lot coming. So
we should actually talk more about that. That's actually kind of tease that in January, the show that's coming up, because as we're learning from this, we will be creating a show with Pete. Pete probably is too humble to say this, but there's a huge demand for him, having been a host on these for a few weeks. And that is one of our big plans for the next year, is to get Pete his own show, very similar to this.
Do you want me to give a brief teaser?
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So I've guest hosted a few of these. I moderated a debate, which everyone can agree was far more agreeable than any of us wanted. We wanted some action, but hey, what are you going to do? They're gentlemen. So Adam is really, if you look at the $1 billion challenge, everything he's doing, a lot of it relates back, or you could arguably say all, to this idea of build in public. And I think a big reason people engage with his content, and what makes Adam's content different than other creators, is he shows everything. He'll like talk about failures openly, talk about why these failures are good because of the learnings that came from them. I know most people in here are in the world of small ventures and starting small ventures. Like most of the things we do at small ventures don't work. Like most things we do fail. It's just that the wins outweigh the failures. It's like I can explore for 10 different marketing channels, and at the 11th one works, the other 10 experiments were worth it. So talking about that openly, building in public, being super open about what you're exploring, what you're not good at, what you're getting good at, what you're learning along the way, that's what I believe makes the most compelling content for him. So he's doing the build in public. He's really capitalizing on this founder brand. There is a kind of subset of ideas around really growth, like how we approach growth and marketing here at RB2B, like what our philosophy is on it, what KPIs and measurable things that we use as leading indicators versus what other indicators the data doesn't tell us. So we try to assess everything. So I'm going to launch one of my goals this quarter is fully launch the Grow in Public initiative. So Grow in Public is going to allow everybody, whether it's people internally at RB2B, myself actually working on it, or folks outside of our org, to see exactly what we're working on from a growth standpoint, what we're prioritizing, why we're prioritizing that, and then how much we're basically putting in and leveraging each of these channels. I have a very kind of systematic approach to growth, where we go through every channel, we do full analysis, we figure out what we want to experiment on, what's working. Experiments are always run by agencies. And I just want to uncover and peel back the onion to say, hey, here's our experiments, here's how they're working, here's where they, where they're on track with our current benchmarks, and just have probably a bi-weekly show to start, where we bring on folks who are working on these specific channels with me. And we just go through what we're trying now, current state of the art, and we're going to have like public tracking sheets where everyone can follow along. So the show is really going to follow the growth journey of RB2B and probably other products as we move along in this world. So that'll start in January. In the meantime, quite a bit of preliminary work to do, but later in this quarter, I will probably in December, I don't know, we'll figure it out. I'm going to do a launch event with Adam. I'll come on here. Adam will host. We'll kind of go through what Grow in Public is. and it'll be the precursor to the actual live event, which will launch after New Year's. That's coming up. I'm excited. Does that sound at all interesting to anybody in here? Can you whip up a quick poll? Do you care or not about Pete's show? So anyway, people can follow along. I'm trying to build up my presence on LinkedIn too, and this is my journey to figuring out what my pillars are of my story. Yeah.
What's cool about this is you asked a question earlier too about getting started in video, right? Like the oh, you guys, if you just heard that knocking noise, that is Adam Robinson responding to my ideas about the live events. He said, cool, let's do it. You heard it here. He just responded to me. You talked earlier about getting started in this. Like, we're watching you get started in your video world, like, which is really cool. We literally produced a few videos that are being uploaded to Pete's inbox right now. I haven't really got to check on this because I'm now a surprise guest on this show. But
sorry.
No. I love doing it, but it's we've got some videos coming out, but you get to watch Pete, discover this world live in person, and it's amazing.
It's all new. So I will also keep an eye out. Why don't I just announce it now? On Thursday, I'm going to I'll post kind of RB2B Academy. I have all of this quarter's content to sort of thoughtfully organized in there, but it's all published, which is great. So people can see sort of how we're prioritizing content. This is all an experiment. And as John said, like, if you want to follow someone's journey on video, give me a thought. Like, I'm going to make some terrible stuff. I'll make some good stuff too, but like, man, some of these are going to be pretty bad. So, we're all going to learn together. So, I'm very excited, but that's a great point. Like, if you want to, and I think Rob at some point will start a video as well. So we're trying to not copy, but we want to apply the same strategy that Adam used to talk to a specific persona, and apply that strategy to other folks in our business, like myself, like Rob Clark, who does all of he's our tech ops lead, and he does all of our support. 98% of our support's run by automation. That's its own cool story. And I think the last thing too, I'll just give an Alec Paul anecdote, and you may have said the same thing, John, which is just start by documenting. Just document what you're already doing. And that's really what the Grow in Public initiative is. It's like, let me just document everything that's going on, all of the results, all of the failures, all the successes, where we're allocating, how we're prioritizing, what we're ignoring. It's all being done already. I just need to broadcast it.
Yeah. And at worst, if you do that, at worst, you have data for yourself. Like, that's the worst possible outcome, which is a great outcome, right? Like, if nobody watches it, you have all this data you've collected, and now you got to iterate on it. And if it does work, keep 80% of what's working and iterate 20%, because that will keep you growing in the right direction all the time. Like, the second you become plateaued or resting on your laurels of what is working is the second that you stop iterating, and second you stop innovating. And that's applicable outside of the video world. That's just my expertise. I can guarantee you, from every founder of every company to whatever role you're in, keep 80%, iterate with the other 20, and you'll always innovate upwards and to the right. And it's great.
That is huge. Let's peel back the onion a little bit. Let's let people know why we were talking about that yesterday in a call. Like, we're kind of looking at all of our content we're putting out, and we're assessing, like, are we leaning too much on what's working and not doing enough experimentation? And like, no one is immune. Nobody is immune to this. And as John said, this is an idea that's applicable to just whatever it is you do. You see some success, you're like, all right, I know how to replicate this. Let me just replicate. If I replicate, I'll stay in the promised land. I'll stay on the mountaintop. But you can't stay up there forever. You gotta hop around.
Yeah. I mean, the second something becomes systemizable and templatized, it's no longer a creative art form. And then you get lost in drafting in your own way. Like, it's hard to always be innovating, and that's not really possible. But the way to keep yourself ahead of the next step of innovation is to, keep your favorite 80%, the most valuable 80%, and just tweak with the other 20%. Worst case scenario, it doesn't work and you can go back. Like, if you don't ever move forward, you can't ever go back, right? So
Yeah, and give yourself too, like, as you're starting out, as I was starting out, people talk about story pillars and like what's your, what audience you talk to. In the beginning, you just don't like, you don't really know any of that stuff. Like the beginning posts are really you just trying to figure out what resonates with people. I will continue to emphasize write great headlines, write really outlandish, like just compelling, I have to read that stuff kind of headlines. Another thing we'd reference in video, just when it comes to captivating and headlines. If you guys know the YouTuber Mr. Beast, I encourage you to pull up the first 10 seconds of his video and then the first 10 seconds of literally any other video on YouTube. That is the importance of a headline. Go to a Mr. Beast video. It's like, I'm trapped on, immediately. It's like, I'm trapped on a desert island right now and I have 5 days to escape. Like immediately you know exactly what's going to be going on here. And yeah, just cut to the chase. Remove all the fat. It does not have to be long stories. Just be compelling, explore, start to build your pillars. John, shall we open up the floor, man?
Yes, please do.
All right. Final minutes here. Let's open it up. Anything related to content building, what you like, what we're doing right, wrong. We're open for folks who are wherever you are on your content journey, even if you're ahead of us. I hope you're ahead of us. That'd be pretty awesome. So I don't know what we can teach you. We might have to have you host something, but yeah, everyone drop in some questions.
Chloe in the comments wrote that she doesn't like the word webinar, in that she loves the ideas of sessions for interactive and the incentives that come along with real time. For context, earlier when I was talking about iterating forward with the live events, that is what we're looking to do. I can't really go too much into that, but that's kind of our goal with these webinars and live events and edutainment, is to be able to incentivize those that are here while we're doing it. So thank you for that comment. We're definitely working in that direction.
Yeah, the incentives thing's been like, so I've been trying to figure out incentives for this creator community, and like just that whole world of getting people to post about you, interact with you, that's its own. It's like this little economy of rewards that you really got to figure out, and we're still figuring it out. Oh, okay. Yeah, I haven't heard anything about content mapped to potential viewer stage, awareness, consideration, conversion. Do you consider that? That is a great question, Marcus. So really all of the video we are doing so far are geared around awareness. A lot of it is not, it's not even talking about our product. Sometimes we do, but we're mostly talking about ideas that a potential user of RB2B might also be interested in. Things like different founder strategies. Yeah, just raising money, not raising money, like all these different ideas. So yeah, everything right now is awareness. Will we, I know you didn't ask this, but will we move up to kind of add video to deeper stages in the funnel? I could see us doing it from maybe like a video outreach at scale perspective, but when it comes to like trying to convert people and get them to sign up for a free trial, say from a talking heads video, I think that could be too far of a gap. That could be, asking for too much commitment, potentially based on the medium. We will explore all of this, but to recap, in short, all awareness at the moment.
Yeah, our CTAs aren't really to sell you a product. I mean, if you're coming to us to see us, if you're coming to us, you already know what our product is. Our main goals are inspiration, education, and connection. Like we want you to know who we are. We want you to know what we do, and we want you to feel inspired to utilize our tools to make your company better. But like, you're not going to really see us being like, buy our B2B. We do sometimes, but it's to us, if you know our company, you know who we are and you know what our values are, we don't need to have that CTA.
I also so earlier in this quarter, especially as I was going through like I was talking to a ton of creators in August and September, and I was posting about that journey. I was more posting about like co-marketing things we're doing or whatever, and man, my engagement plummeted. It plummeted, like, and it was just because I was 20, 30, however much more percent promotional compared to educational or inspiring or so just to further emphasize John's point, a personal brand is not the place typically to promote the heck out of yourself. Do that on your company page. That's the place for standard PR. Even like announcing integrations from my page, which somebody had me do. It's like, it doesn't, anyway.
Yeah.
So that's
and Marcus followed back up with the case studies as an example. We do have case studies. They've had various rates of success because, like, in order for a case study to be valuable, they also need to, like, you have to be aware of their brand. You have to trust their word. At this point, our company is speaking for itself, and it's doing a great job. We do have some case studies, and we have some on the horizon. So they're not invaluable. I think they do have a lot of value. It's just really the intention that you put out with videos where it starts. And us just having one company say something great is fine, but it's really having a collective tribe behind a group of people.
Yeah, we also, from a social proof standpoint, we do lean on our G2 reviews a lot. We have 239 right now. There's another bunch pending in there. But if you go to our website too, we have a whole wall of love, and that all just streams straight out of G2 because our product is so simple. It's very the reviews are great because it's like people are saying, yeah, it works. Like, it'll identify people, right? Like that's kind of almost the extent to what we need in a way. But from the case study standpoint, we're noticing that there's a lot of sort of like, at least for what our understanding was initially, like some unorthodox use cases. And we do want to highlight the heck out of those. So we'll do some more, but don't need to use too much video for third-party validation. And another thing, Mark, is like I'm sure you guys have seen the companies that'll like actually you can hire teams to like go to your customers, offices and really fully produce case studies and video content. For the last company I worked for, that would probably be a really good move based on what we were doing. It's just not necessary with what RB2B does.
Yeah. Did you see Patrick Shaw's question?
No, I think I missed it.
I was following some of Hormozy, who's one of our favorite people to quote here. He was talking about proof over promise in the 3 steps: proof, then promise, then plan when pushing content. How do you think of that in terms of our posting? As far as video creation, I can answer that. As far as LinkedIn, we've got some masterminds such as Adam or Alec that could follow up. I love that proof, promise, and plan. The proof being who you are as a person. Adam lives what he says he's going to do. Like that's the value of work in public. Promise being like, here is where you could be if you follow the plan. I've always learned it to be proof, plan, promise, but I think the way that that's written works as well. It's really how you're hooking. For context, what I'm talking about, if you're trying to sell something, you want to prove that you are the person who can sell it. And the promise is how much greater the world will be after they get whatever it is you're trying to sell. And then the plan is what you are selling. I'm a fan of telling people what to do and then giving them the proof that it works afterwards. But if you have those 3 elements in that beginning, middle, end, as far as storytelling goes, I think you're crushing life. Like you have a hook, you have a context, and you have a sell. And so, yeah, Hormozy is a great person to follow if you want to learn how to tell a quick, fast story. I think the guy's brilliant, genius, and crushes his online presence.
Yeah, that's a great recommendation too, John. Like, study people who are doing it really well, because there's I think people who are hooking folks on video, like that's a pretty well formulated, like trying to follow like another business playbook, like is not necessarily applicable, but a lot of these video playbooks, like we reference Mr. Beast all the time. We do absolutely nothing that's similar to him.
Yeah.
But a lot of how he approaches content and hooks people in is directly applicable to exactly what we do. So yeah.
If there's one thing, one of the hardest parts about and we can finish on this too. One of the hardest parts about getting started in video is getting started. Like you think I need this equipment, I need this story, I need whatever. Like I said, watch some of Adam's first videos. We posted them on LinkedIn 1,000 times. Like him just getting started into the video world was, he'll tell you, it was not the most ideal way to get started. Getting started and then just doing it over and over and over again. I have like 50 copies of this book, The War of Art. I give it to all my artist friends. If you haven't read it, you definitely need to read it. It's applicable to business, arts, forms, everything you could do. Huge fan. It will help you get started and be inspired to do it.
Yeah, it takes, like when you're doing those first pieces of content, whether it's video, written, whatever it might be, I was knocking out a ton of like kind of playbooks. The first recently, the first ones always take so much longer. So if you're getting daunted by the just the time, not time suck, but like the amount of time spent to do these first bits of video, just remember you're like, you just don't have a process yet. That's why it's so, you know, it's more time consuming. So just commit to sticking with it, whether it's video production or starting to post text or finding your audience or creating your story. Give it time. I will tell you, it took years before his content really started taking off. And you know, I'm starting to post, but I'm many months into it now and like just starting to take off a little bit. And that's with tailwind from Adam. So it's definitely a journey. Don't be too hard on yourself, is what I'm saying out there. Just keep going down the path. As a fun reminder, since we don't have any risk of being demonetized here, I want to remind people this is episode 1 of the Joe Rogan Experience. There's like snowflakes. He didn't even know how to stream it properly. So like, and you know, sign multi 9-figure deals with Spotify at this point. So like, literally look at any of your content heroes, look at their first pieces of content, and it will remind you that you are simply at the same starting point as everybody else, and you can literally take that same journey if you keep chopping away. So
and I just posted the $1 billion challenge in the comments, and now I'm going to post the YouTube link for where these get uploaded tomorrow at 9 a.m. Central Time.
Perfect. Well, folks, next week we have Michelle Levin. He's the CEO and co-founder of Cold IQ. Michelle's going to take us through the modern sales and marketing tech stack. If you watched the Jason Bay episode, this is really going to be the tech stack complement to all of Jason Bay's strategies. That was one of my favorite episodes we've done. And I hope this really is the B-side that complements it perfectly. Michelle will be here the week after. So this was an impromptu show. Ryan from Pitchling was supposed to be here. He will be on most likely in 2 weeks from today. We'll go through the integration, talk about setting video prospecting at scale, all of that good stuff. I will post a write-up on LinkedIn. We'll be back here right here next week, guys, same time. Please stick around, come back, and we'll see you then.
Yeah, thank you for having me jump in.
Yeah, thank you, John. Impromptu, ultimate guest though. That was great. I love the in-depth look at RB2B's video strategy. So thank you for showing us. We're let's have you on my show maybe beginning of next year. Let's talk about like where we're at with all of these ideas we've had, what we had to scrap, what we executed on, all that good stuff. So
sounds good, dude. I'll prep for that one.
Yeah. All right. Good stuff.
Thank you.
Have a great day, everybody. Thanks for joining. Bye.
Bye.